All right, my Renowned fam, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. As always, I am your amazing host, Stephen Morris, and I am joined today by Mr. Richard Blank. And I am incredibly jealous of Richard because he is exactly where every single one of us wishes we could be right now. And I imagine the weather today in Costa Rica is just phenomenal. Yeah, Richard?
I live in paradise. The top is down, having a great time. It's almost like spring break every day.
Dude, almost like spring break. Like, yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. So, go ahead real quick, Richard. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, first, I want to thank you, Stephen, for having me as a guest on Renowned Leadership. I love the podcast, reached out because it's entertaining and you motivated me. And so here I am today. I'm the proud CEO of Costa Rica's call center. We're a nearshore bilingual dedicated call center located in Central America in the capital of San Jose, Costa Rica. And come February 6th, I'll be celebrating my 16th year owning my own company, but I've been in the industry for 23 years.
Wow, 16 years. So actually, I know it's January right now when y'all are hearing this, but we're actually recording it in August. And in 2 days, I think, is September 1st. And that will be Renowned's 1 year anniversary of when I started. So I made it my first year. And I feel like that is do what?
10% 1 year, 1% 10 years. And so you already made the first hurdle.
Right.
Whatever you've done right, continue doing it. And also have that structure and discipline, because the moment you get lazy, complacent, or you take things for granted, that's when water starts entering your ship and you start to sink.
Absolutely. In the military, we have a saying, complacency kills. The second you've been, when you've been going on missions in the same area all the time during a combat deployment, you get used to the sights, the sounds, the people, and you get complacent. And the second you get complacent, it's when the enemy gets you because you don't see it coming. Absolutely. So true. So what got you into, you said you've been in the call center business for over 20 years. Man, I can't even wrap so when I think of call center, I think of telemarketing and, the unhelpful help desk. So, I mean, is that all call centers are? Like, how did you get into it? And really, could you give us a good definition of what a call center actually is?
Well, in this industry, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. But let me take it back a little bit on how I even got here. When you're growing up, nobody ever tells their parents that they'd like to be the CEO of a call center, let alone a full-time telemarketer. They might get punished. But what I knew when I graduated the proud Abington High School in Northeast Philadelphia back in 91, I decided to double down on my favorite class, which was Spanish. Now, Stephen, a lot of us are under some pressure in regards to career expectations and family expectations and pressures. And I guess what I wanted to do is not follow in my grandfather's footsteps of Harvard Law. My father went to Columbia Business. My brother was at Washington and Lee University studying accounting and finance. And listen, I didn't have the maturity, the grades, or the structure for that, but I had momentum. And so I chose to go to the University of Arizona. So besides classroom learning, outside the classroom, all the world's a stage. So I could really devote to additional dedicated practice in my own playground. It really assisted me in building on those skills. I took my junior year abroad and lived in Spain for a whole year, and interned for Telemundo for 2 years, post-grad work for Corona. So if you think about it, I was getting a return on my investment. Northeast Philly kid that's got this second language made me marketable, separated me from my other friends that were doing things. And I guess I was just getting a lot of a positive reinforcement from the Latino community, not just seeing me as a parlor trick or 20 vocabulary words. They saw my dedication. So I was getting a lot of assistance there. And here we go. It was August of 2000. A very good friend of mine from college offered me a 1 in a million opportunity to go to Costa Rica for just 2 months to work at their center and teach English. I was in between jobs. I got past my parents' guilt. And Stephen, you know what they say, when that barn door is open, that horse is a gone
Right.
yonder. And so I decided after 2 months to stay. And I learned the business from the inside out, not at sea level, but as you would say, a grunt. I was earning my stripes. I was eating and laughing and crying with the proletariat. I learned what made them tick. And the biggest gripe that they had was just they felt expendable, felt like a number, and that they could be churned. And I realized that if you just extend some sort of empathy, you might be a good leader. And since I'm a guest in this country, I wanted to respect the traditions, the value, the culture, but I also had this special sauce, not a fish out of water. I was where exactly I needed to be. And by combining how I grew up and my mindset, my work ethic, my ability to have grit and go the distance, that was a perfect combination for these young budding minds in their early 20s that needed a mentor, someone to give them that additional balance, especially in this industry. Because if you're a good speaker, if you can retain an account, if you can make a sale, if you can build on these sort of bedside manner, Stephen, or the soft skills that people claim are so important, then you can build a career for yourself. And when I saw it, I saw something a little bit different than what most people see in Hollywood, or as you say, having bad experiences calling a call center. I saw it as the art of speech, where individuals could eliminate that nonverbal chatting, email support, and really have that interpersonal communication with the client to get that better experience. And I stand by that. And by having the sort of people that I brought in that are willing to be coachable, allowing me to really dissect their calls and expand upon it, man, I got a luxury trade. This has been one of the most interesting careers that I've ever had in my entire life. But it was self-made like an artist. And so by being true enabled me to last so long in this competitive industry.
So the first thread I want to pull at, and I say that because before we started recording, I was like, we're gonna find some threads and pull at them. Which, of course, you met my mark, Richard. You gave me tons of threads to pull.
Oh yeah.
The first one is uh, their biggest complaint was they're expendable. Brother, everybody I talk to, everybody says that they wish that their companies cared about them. They wish that they didn't just get the lip service of we're a family. You know, I won't call any companies out by name, but there's a very well-known retailer. It's a worldwide retailer, and their big thing is work here, we're family, and and I paraphrase that. And so and then you go talk to their employees and they just laugh. I'm like, we're no freaking family. It's the same corporate muddle. And it breaks my heart because that's not the way it has to be. What do you say to that sector of the world who wake up every single day and find the strength? Because you and I we're the unicorns. We love what we do. We get to get up every day excited about our day. I get depressed on the weekend because I don't get to do what I love to do. I got to go find stuff to do.
You want to do
And
homework on weekends? No, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
man. Call me a
Get
nerd or
laid on
whatever. I
Friday
don't care.
nights.
But
There's a sweet and a sour to it. There's a price that you pay. Boxers have to take a shot to get the belt. And soldiers have to see certain things in order to win wars. How about this? It really is a commitment on both ends. Each side has the leverage. People have gone on strike and quit before or done low performance, and owners have the ability to fire people or promote them. What kind of dance do you want to do? But I tell you what, I've seen people that have such potential don't live up to it. individuals that come in with very, very bad habits that I need to decompress and retrain again. I've had diamonds that needed buffing and freshmen that needed molding. And those were always my favorite because I can build them from the start of my company culture. It's these are things you just can't take personal. There is an attrition rate here, but I've made peace with it to justify it one way. There is a forced attrition and a natural attrition. A forced attrition is if I'm firing you. Listen, pal, if you're going getting stoned at lunch, not making your phone calls or missing half work, by labor laws, I'm going to have to let you go. I mean, you're affecting everybody. But on the flip side, I will lose people because of scheduling conflicts, Stephen. Maybe their girlfriend works at Amazon. It could be closer to their home. And there's so many call centers here. There's other opportunities that might be more lucrative to your specific profile and skill set. But I've yet to have an agent say that I gave them the walk of shame. Took out the white glove and smacked them in front of everybody. We don't do things like that. People have their dignity. And by being an owner of a company, it's almost like a Chuck E. Cheese party. If nobody comes to your birthday, you have no friends. And if I were a terrible leader, A, I wouldn't be in business close to 16 years and I've had people with me over a decade. And so the market speaks. It's very humbling. You could play boss all day long and pretend and be in your office doing work. Or in my case, the luxury was walking the rows, breaking bread with them. You see, I have a jukebox and a candy machine. I collect classic pinball machines. So I like to game it out with them retro style. You asked about family. Well, I talk about authenticity. People know when you're sincere or not. And that's why AI will never take over the human experience because they just can't show the empathy and emotion. It's a machine. You're not going to have a machine hug you. And so for me, and I mentioned earlier about the dignity in sitting with the people, it's quite simple. As long as I knew your name and I just didn't call you champ, but I said, yo, Stephen, I saw you got 44 sales the other day and I listened to the call with Mrs. Jones. You eliminated your hedging, your okay, so's, and whatever else you were doing. You had a perfect flow. You name dropped. You did the military alphabet, which was unique, so the email did not bounce back. And my man, you gave a positive escalation when you got transferred from the gatekeeper to the decision maker. You did it verbally and you also did it in writing. How many more aces can you put onto that? Plus, you made a custom-made email and left a custom-made voicemail because you did your due diligence prior to the phone call. So you found out 2 or 3 goodies about the company. Man, you had more momentum. You were in 5th gear to start. And I'm proud of people like that. That's proper preparation. You're not going to win every battle, but if you have been prepared and you know your odds and you do things perfectly, I accept zig and zag, wild card and chance. That is the 10% of life. But character is judged during chaos. And so if you can have these romantic deaths where you're making these 30-second to 10-minute phone calls, but regardless, within the first 30 seconds, we're company name spiking, name dropping, introducing ourselves. I think it's an excellent rhythm. So you don't beat yourself up. You, as we say in Spanish, por lo menos, you at least get something out of this, regardless of the outcome. And if you can anchor with people, it reduces their defense. You could almost fumble the football and still get first downs. So I'm not focused on you doing a 10-minute call. Brother, you're not even going to make the first minute if you don't look at your feet and get your balance and where you are. So I'm very much into checkpoints. I don't like leaving doors open. I like raking. I like asking open-ended questions so you can make those choose your own adventure decisions. And so I think through the Wu Wei philosophy of least resistance, you and I, my friend, are using gravity, wind, and currents to our advantage so we don't exhaust ourselves. And so there are certain ways that you can naturally give yourself momentum and depth with people without forcing that sort of fit or compromising ethics, Stephen. And that's the difference between me and these other call centers that that push the cold call close, or there'll always be closing, or 9 yeses or no's to 1 yes, and these long meetings and these masteries of script. Please, it makes you a print. The greatest thing you could be is a painting where, even though you overlap, every experience should be, in my opinion, unique. And if you do that, as you said earlier, then we have that luxury trade. Then we don't burn out. Or how about this, brother? We're not working on the weekends, but we're working on our skills during the weekend. So we might be speaking out loud just to practice rhetoric, maybe reading something or watching the BBC to increase your vocabulary and English skills. And so you don't need to do pure homework, but there are ways to whistle while you work, and there are ways to learn in a fun way. So when you come back on Monday, you're still warmed up. You're not burnt out.
Love that.
Um,
Never get cold.
oh,
Yeah.
you? Oh no, you're the apex. Come
Love
on,
that.
man. You're the Jonathan Livingston Seagull doing flips in the air.
Yeah. And I think that hits the nail on the head, because I hate when you go on YouTube and you got all these influencers or speakers or whatever, and they're like, oh, you don't like your job, then quit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but be smart. You still got to eat, still got to pay the bills, still got to provide for your family, your kids. Can't just quit. But I mean, I think
Very extreme though, right? Don't you need
well,
blending a little bit or testing waters
absolutely.
before implementing?
And I think what you said speaks tenfold to that is constantly be working on yourself. Everything you do, and I'm not perfect, but everything I try to make sure everything I do every single day is somehow benefiting me, as in not like financially or physically, but like it's benefiting my mind. It's helping me grow to be a better business owner, a better leader, a better person, a better human being, a better, dog owner, a better father, a better whatever the case may be. I am always trying to, like, how can I use this to make myself a better whatever. And I think where people really struggle when they're stuck in those dead end jobs that they can't get out of is they've lost that. Well, you said the word earlier, they've lost their grit, their drive, their why, their purpose, their passion. And without all those things, they can't see how this unfortunate incident could be turned into an intentional growth.
I have a suggestion, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
I've been in dead end jobs before, but a wise man once told me, very good friends of mine who actually made it into the NBA, that if you can't master this level, how are you going to master the next level? Yeah, but it's beneath me. I'm cleaning tables, I'm washing cars, I'm folding clothes. And then be the best car washer in the world.
Right.
Or they say car wash detail. I mean, come on, there's different levels of this kind of stuff. And so I realized multiple things, me today, you tomorrow. And if I was doing the maximum of minimum, I'm not really fulfilling my commitment to the person that hired me. Yeah, but it's minimum wage. It's a summer job. You're doing this, you're doing that. I know, and that's what I chose. But you also realize if you want to judge things on an hourly basis, then be a rocket scientist or a doctor. But there
Right.
are some jobs from time to time, if I may make a suggestion, wax on, wax off. Was he being paid? Daniel's son wasn't making any money during that time. Yes or no? Wax on, wax off. And he needed to learn that. And that was probably one of the greatest things. He got the car at the end, remember the nice yellow convertible, and beat Johnny. But it's that sort of forced march that people need to take. It's that both sides of the fence, up and down, back and forth. And as I say, if you don't even have foundation, how are you going to grow? And
Right.
also, if I may, you're almost like a trunk of a tree right? And you're talking about getting yourself better. It's not just getting me better. I'm also thinking of branches and roots. What do you mean? Well, I mean, there's one day you make too much money or it's not fun anymore. So you're thinking of ways to pay it forward. And for me, never being the best student, I'm a teacher now, which is kind of interesting. But why not, right? It's like the best cops were the ones that broke windows as a child. They know about second chances and they know how to speak with people a certain way. And so maybe I'm not just the C-level exec that never made a call. Man, I made these calls. So that's why it's my wheelhouse. And when people, I don't think they question me, but from time to time, I need to balance a bike. Or if I'm in real time making coaching suggestions, they do realize these things are done with good intentions and it's backed up. I can easily back up my theories and philosophies on why people should be doing certain things. And so I look at it like that. My friend, people need to get rid of that weight mentally so they can rise. Do you remember The Color of Money when Forrest Whitaker was playing Fast Eddie and he schools him? And then at the end, he goes, "Hey, Eddie, should I lose some weight?" I didn't get it, but it's a gambling term. It's really about giving someone an advantage, taking away leverage, or just freeing yourself and replacing that baggage with something a little more positive. And so I'm a big believer in that. People need to let things go and forgive themselves so they can readjust, shed some skin, and get to new levels, Stephen. That's maybe that might assist your audience in getting through those tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the comparison to the tree because you got you said you got to have a firm foundation before you grow. That's your roots of the tree. A tree's roots have to go deep and wide to hold the trunk, and then the branches. When you said that, my mind instantly went to whose life am I positively impacting? Right, those are my branches.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you may be just a car washer, but you does that smile that you give to whatever client comes through that happens to be Richard Blank, that's the CEO of a company who's having a bad day, who has to go to this meeting with the HR rep, who might get ticked off and fire the HR rep because he's having such of a bad day, but because you smiled and you gave him a pleasant experience. You put him in slightly a bit of a better mood, which allowed him to, you can paint this picture however you want, but just the act of simply just smiling. There are stories everywhere. Google it of where a stranger just smiled at a random person, and because they smiled at that random person decided not to kill themselves that day, right? And then they go on to become public speakers and talk about that experience of the act of the kindness of a simple smile,
That's
how
right.
that can change your life. So your branches, man, like that is what is so important. I don't do this podcast to benefit. I don't make a dime off this podcast, at least not directly. I didn't start my company to get rich. I just want to impact as many lives as positively as I can, and that those are my branches. Who am I reaching out and touching with my branches? And I think that is so important. And when you look at it, everything that way, it almost becomes impossible to have a bad day because every time you look, there is someone else you can impact, someone else you can help, someone else you can just simply smile at. It doesn't take millions of dollars to change someone's life. Just a smile is sometimes all it takes.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point.
Uh, I love where this conversation is going, and I want to pull it the next thread, which is grit,
Hmm.
because starting your own company in a foreign country, like I imagine that's a different level than, I mean, at least I'm in the US where I'm from starting my company. I couldn't imagine trying to do this in a foreign country. Did that make it a little more challenging, or was that just me? Whatever.
A soldier. Fear is a morbid anticipation of things that haven't even happened yet. Listen, I'll take advice for people that have started companies abroad and got the ups and downs. You're listening to 99.99% of the people that A, don't learn a second language, are not an expat, never started a company, let alone a call center. What advice can they really give me? Except be negative Nancy's and Debbie Downers and trying to maybe convince me to stay in a family business or not leave the States. Well, I don't know about you, but every person has a vision quest. There's a spiritual life journey that we have. I mentioned earlier about Spanish being a major. That opened a door. And then by testing the waters with Telemundo and Corona, it was a reinforcement. This is correct. It was working. I was improving. I almost had to throw the money down on this, but let's talk about going abroad and starting a business. Okay, well, since I'm a guest here, the best thing for me to do is hire an attorney. Great. That clarified a lot of things for me and helped me out a lot. What about a human resources director? Perfect. Someone that knows the laws better than I do too, and has done this for decades. Supervisors, chief technical officers, security, you name it. Plug and play. Every single person has a position. I mean, some can overlap and complement, but no, every person has where they need to be, right bus, right seat. So for me, it was just a matter of affording it. Did I need to wear multiple hats? In the beginning, yes, but I wasn't foolish enough to do the things legally. I did need an attorney. That was essential. So I stayed a couple extra hours, just to make up that time. But in regards to my business, I was able to start where I was renting a turnkey station at a blended center, which is almost like a glorified internet cafe. So for me, I was just able to rent a station ready to go, pay the overhead, pay the taxes, pay their salary, make my margin. Is it glamorous? No, but I could scale accordingly. And I didn't need to lay out 80 to $100,000 in furniture in a server room and wiring to do this. I was down the road. I needed to wait a couple years and pay top dollar for those individual stations to be able to have secure clients, cash, and the ability to handle 6 months to a year. And so I was just buying things at pennies on a dollar because companies were going out of business. So I was picking up furniture and used equipment. And after a couple of years, I rented space, did that for 6 years, and then bought my own building. So it's a tortoise, not the hare. It's slow and steady. It's cash only. It's not overextension. There's no loans. There's no partners. There's no mortgages. That's great. It means I can sleep at night. And to answer your question, when it comes to being an owner of a company, I wanted to make sure, just like in The Wizard of Oz, you are going to see eventually what is behind that curtain, what's in the kitchen. And I'd rather be forthright in the beginning. What you see is what you get, compared to smoke and mirrors for when you've invested so much and it's very important that I can't fulfill. And so the only difference between me and Amazon is that they have the deepest of pockets, tons of real estate, advertising like crazy. But in essence, we all share the same labor pool. I match them on their entry level base and benefits. My location sometimes is better for some people. So, as I say, what is their advantage? Not much. In essence, to the labor pool, we compete. But through the filtering process, there are some people, Stephen, that would want to make a name for themselves, not want to hide amongst thousands, that want me to delegate, to give them responsibilities, to test them, to see if they're capable. And since I have the luxury of not having to hire thousands, I'm hiring dozens at a shot, I can be more selective, which means I don't cattle call and carpet bomb and just bring them in. We don't do things like that. I like to ask certain specific questions to see if you're a long-term player, man, if you're going to fit with my culture. Because if not, then it's a terrible investment of someone that might jump on you. So that's how I was able to build a business. Checkpoints and slow and steady and bringing in the specialists. and making sure that I had the capital to start expanding my team. If not, I was doing most of the stuff. It's almost like a owner of a restaurant that busts the table, cooks, and is a concierge. I never cleaned toilets, but I did a lot of different stuff to be able to help assist and offset the fact that I was lacking certain staff within the first 6 months of the growth of my business.
I think you spoke. I think what you said, and I don't, it wasn't even your main point, but I think it should be, is that it's not glamorous in the beginning. I think so many people, like, they want that executive job. They want that director's job. They want that glamorous job. They want the parking space. They want the salary. They want the, but they don't, and you talked about it with Daniel and the Karate Kid, So I apologize. I got a new puppy and my wife is currently training her. So if you heard that rattling sound, that is her training her. That was really loud. Anyway, um, so you talked about Daniel, like the process wax on, wax off. Like he didn't see any return on that really until the end of the movie. And that's life is the exact same way, right? Yes, you are working a minimum wage job. Yes, it may be a dead end job. However, what door is that going to open for you? That, who are you going to meet doing that dead end job? Maybe busting those tables, you get to meet the Richard Blank, who is the CEO of a call center who sees potential in you. And then that dead end job leads into a future career that has unlimited potential. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's a
Maybe, but you have to mind you, you're talking about the second and third person of meeting and the growth. No, it's this first. They need happy head. They need light heart.
yeah,
They
I was
need
getting there.
physiological strength, and they need to make their bed in the morning. They need to look at themselves in the mirror and give themselves five. In almost essence, it's that Sisyphus. Let them push that rock up the hill. Let them grind it out. You asked earlier about grit, perseverance, vigor. Well, my man, that those are the times of when it's built. I
Right.
mean, during your military training in the mud, when your legs hurt, or late nights, early mornings, pushing you to your limit so you can go past that limit. Let me put it this way. I don't want to meet anybody that's doing that dead end job if they're not feeling well. I want to be the undercover boss episode, which I always thought was interesting. We can get that on the other podcast. But it was always the guy that was cleaning the toilets that taught him how to do it better. But when they were cleaning the toilets, loved the job, right? And then the boss couldn't believe it that someone at that level was respecting that job and doing it to the best of their ability and critiquing the boss. Yeah, that's the funny part. It's not the funny part. Goofy, you should be understanding that. And without that sort of respect for the first level warrior, how could you get the respect from the higher ups? And so, um,
Yeah, that's what I was alluding, or that's where I was going with it. Is that it's you got to change your mindset, right? You're looking at like you said the second and third level, but you need to understand that you don't get there without starting here. Daniel didn't get to beat Johnny without starting with wax on, wax off. You have to pay your dues, so to speak.
you're
And
talking
that
glamour, the business, the parking spot, the title, the money. No, it's creating something from nothing. It's the metaphysics. It's the humanity side of it. Because one day you might not have a company. People can leave you. I like to judge people when they had the power, what they did with it, right? And the greatest heroes are the ones when the cameras aren't there or they don't get any press from it. So I'm going to tell your entrepreneurs and your business owners, yeah, you'll get the bells and whistles that you were mentioning, and you'll get it in abundance. But it's those private moments when your head is touching the pillow, or if you have to make a decision to promote or let somebody go, and be proud of yourself. This is the way that you were raised from your parents and grandparents. And sometimes a certain decision for somebody is one of the greatest wake up calls for them to change. So that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Your impression can really move somebody in a certain way in life, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the ultimately that's what I was trying to allude to. It's all about your mindset. It's how you're looking at that busboy job that you have, or waiting tables job that you have, or cleaning toilets job that you have. It's all in how you look at it. And you talked about it earlier. Do the best you can do. Take pride in your work and do the best you can do. And that is what is going to, in my opinion, that is what is going to build that discipline and that drive
There's
and
passive
that
aggressive
grit.
behavior. You know, when the manager's yelling at you, then clean it better, shinier. Passive aggressive behavior does not get you in trouble. It's true. Make it extra shiny. It's a good way to prove points.
Go, yeah, go above and beyond. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so I want to switch gears a little bit. And something else you mentioned, which is you said you like to kick it with your guys. You had mentioned collecting pinball machines, which I think
Yeah.
is crazy cool.
Hmm.
How how do you incorporate that into the work environment without it becoming a distraction?
The same way, Stephen, they incorporated recess in elementary school. Kids
I
needed
never
to
got recess.
and to make friends, didn't they? Play some kickball and capture the flag. I loved it. And so the fact that we're adults doesn't mean we can't play. It's different, but I have my tastes. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I'm a retro gamer, and my purest passion is antique pinball machines, especially from the 1970s, the best. So I like to offer a neutral environment, a happy medium for people to let off steam, recharge batteries, meet people from other departments, hand-eye coordination, try a game that they've never done before. Virtual pinball does not count. No, there's a huge difference between playing a classic Bally's compared to doing it on your computer, but that's another time and another place. But I've seen it save a relationship. Someone could be having a bad day, spinning out of control, water on the face, coffee, and a timeout wasn't working. I don't want them to quit, and I don't want a Jerry Maguire incident. So we take a code red, bring them downstairs, and let them just vent on the machines for a little bit. And it's nice. And prior to any sort of training class, I'll have the dozen agents in the game room together so they can bond. So instead of just absorbing, now they're contributing. Defense levels have dropped and they want to express themselves more. And so, like Willy Wonka, he had that gray factory. People thought it's just another place just to slave away your days. But you open that one room and there's a chocolate river and everything's edible. And it's almost interesting. Things go from gray to color. And when you walk into my building, even though the outside's beautiful, it's a Art Deco building with neon lights and marquees, still call center. So people are expecting the grind, but they must walk through my game room prior to going up the stairs. And so just the lights, the sound, it reminds them multiple things on how I treat them, how I treat myself. And if any clients ever come to visit me, how come you don't have a nice game room for your employees? What's wrong with you? And Jeff Bezos is a brilliant man. He's has a huge influence here in Costa Rica with Amazon, and I respect him wholeheartedly. But there's one thing I know that Jeff Bezos did not do. He didn't play pinball with all his agents like I did. So if there is a call center Olympics, at least I can have that gold medal. And I have that reputation in this country. You asked, and it needed to be done. I did invest a very good portion of my space to put in almost a dozen pinball machines, an air hockey table, and a bunch of other machines. I could have put lockers there and some other stuff. But I said, absolutely not. There has to be a certain portfolio of my call center space dedicated to gaming. And
Was that a part of the vision when you built your building?
a
Was
thousand,
that
it had to be. The foosball tables were fun. I mean, they love soccer in this country, and that's great. But listen, my man, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And when I started making money, I had that discretionary income. I could do whatever I wanted with it. It's kind of funny. You know, people collect Rolexes or they go to Greece and they'll do these things. Me personally, all I want to do is go find classic pinball machines and rockolas. I know my true taste. And fortunately for me, I have the space. My wife realizes that's the hill I'm willing to die on. So she's very nice with me in regards to my own personal game room at home and here. And so listen, she'll win 99 battles, but when I see a classic 70s pinball machine, she knows I'm buying it. So, that's kind of where we're at right now. But it's cool. I mean, really, it does separate me. It gives me a spring to my step. And I found something interesting. You're not really supposed to touch people. I know there's certain handshakes and there's hugs when you win a game, but when I'm playing the games in the morning and agents are walking past me, I'm not surprised when I get a lot of shoulder taps and, hey, good morning, Hefe. It's more than appropriate. It's a reassurance. The fact that they're comfortable enough to not only say good morning to me, but to give me a pat of good luck and send me on my way. And so that's the sort of environment that I know that I've created with people that most people have mentioned to me that's separated me from the other leaders down here.
that's the final string I want to pull at then. And you said several things that made me think of it, but I want to I'm going to break and then finally I talk about it. And I say that because my audience is probably going to roll their eyes because they've probably, if they've listened to 3 or 4 podcasts, then they've already heard me talk about this. And that's the art of personal relationship with your team.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about it beautifully. They're comfortable enough to not only speak to you, but touch you. That is incredible. That means you have put in the effort to build a personal relationship with your team, with your staff, with your employees, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And that is so vital. And I feel like that is one of the most overlooked leadership skills or tools that there is in the world is the art of having a personal relationship. I'm not saying be friends with your team. Um, I understand there are certain environments where you can't be their friend per se, but that doesn't mean you can't know their birthdays or their anniversaries or their hire date at least off the
Okay.
like you should know these things and they should feel comfortable because if they're not comfortable walking past you saying, hey, boss, good morning, good luck, then how are they going to be comfortable coming to tell you that they made a mistake and they need your help?
It's a
Right.
good point.
So, I mean, I would like for you to talk about no, outside of the game room, which I think is hella cool, by the way. Like, I
Sure.
love pinball and great idea. But talk about the other ways that you built this relationship to make them comfortable.
Absolutely. And Stephen, we're not going to compromise ethics, values, and morals. Let's just be consistent. If they ever bring one of their family members here, a parent, a spouse, a child, you don't think that I'm the first person outside of my suit to go outside and tell Stephen's mother how amazing he is? You don't think that's a gift that keeps on giving, right? And prior to making a single phone call for a client, I spend a couple hours with them. I'll go over some basic soft skills, things that I've worked on for years that enabled me to convert calls and have great relationships with clients. Since English is their second language and Spanish is mine, I've established my credibility and respect with them in regards to my Spanish skills. And it's my responsibility to enhance their English skills. So we'll use the thesaurus. I will discuss certain grammar that's more strategic and diplomatic. And we will listen to certain things. And I believe that sincerity sells. I also like to ask permission before suggestions. And when I make that suggestion, I'm going to talk about what I did first by getting mustard on my suit. So you don't do it. So I'm not just going to start picking you apart. I'm going to let you know I've been there and done that. And I'm an old bull and I know what to do. And I've seen where people, they're not at a 0, but it goes from like to a 10 to a 4. And I can study their body posture. I expect them to bring a notepad so they can take copious notes, because I don't expect you to memorize everything. But if you can start, doing your checklist or putting sticky notes up or whatever it takes for you to wax on and wax off, I'm cool with that. But just like a violin teacher, they know if you've been practicing or not. And if somebody is not increasing their skills after multiple coaching sessions, either A, something outside the office, Stephen, could be affecting them. So you have to take that into consideration. You look at your flexibility with the local Costa Rican labor laws, the flexibility I have with my US contract with my clients, because they might be asking for something we can't do. And preventions are better than cures. I don't need that HR nightmare. I don't need someone quitting. I think there's a lot of points to where we can buffer it, filter it, reduce it, readjust it prior to an emergency. I'll take that occasional wild card, but I have been able to extinguish so many potential fires with the clients, with the agents, or whatever. And a lot of the times it's asking questions and also speaking second, because you can find priorities, you can cut some fat, and you might have overextended yourself in one area, which could have been way off. I like giving people the luxury of time if they want to sleep on it. If we have a sense of urgency, then we might need to take checkpoints to breathe for a minute to come back so it doesn't get elevated. And it's really just about readjustments of tone and mindsets in short periods of time. And I've learned to do that. And Stephen, I think it has a lot to do with maturity. Okay. The mature person, even though they didn't do it, is willing to clean the spill and pay for the bill of their best friend, even though you didn't even do it. That's what maturity is. It's impulse control. It's listening to other opinions and explaining how something is done. That's why I was mentioning earlier about a mentorship, and someone could sit in on a meeting, or I can assist them on why I write an email or make a decision, because the effects of that. And so it's just a matter of growing up that way. And it's assisted me. As I say, I'm not Ivy League. This was my first company. I was not a business major. I was just a bilingual salesman. But I tell you what, there's always somebody in the middle of that proletariat that's willing to raise their arm and lead the charge, or start bringing people together, or just finding where they fit, and then surrounding themselves with other people that fit. And so it seemed pretty easy for me when some people try to make it too complicated.
Yes, people make it too complicated. Stop it. Stop it, people. It's not that hard. Just be a
No.
good person. That's all I got to do. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
hard. All right, man. I really, really appreciate your time here, Richard. We're coming up on time. So tell the audience real quick how they can get a hold of you or find you to learn more about you.
Stephen, I always recommend that they buy a first class plane ticket and come visit me here in sunny Costa Rica. Just for your audience, we're north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Costa Rican is the only democratic society in Central America. There's no standing army. So they put all that money back into education and they boast a 95% literacy rate. In regards to English accents, they claim that Costa Rica has the most neutral English accent. Companies such as Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle have made a home here, and we're known for our infrastructure, medical tourism, especially ecotourism. We have some of the best surfing in the world. And if you're into zip lines and volcanoes and exotic fruits and plants and animals, well, this is the place to be. And I can't thank you enough, Stephen. I had the best time on your podcast today. The renowned leadership. Listen, you guys pack a punch, and I hope I was able to follow through today on some good tips and tricks.
Absolutely, brother. It's been a really awesome conversation, and I really appreciate it. And of course, everybody, I'm going to have links to Richard, so you can learn more about him and show him some love. Once you're done doing that, though, head over to renownedleadership.com and give me love, because I need all the love. He's been in business 16 years. He's okay. I'm the one that needs the love, everybody. So come give me the love. Nah, I'm just playing. Go give Richard love. He deserves it. He is a pretty awesome dude. I appreciate your time, brother. Before I let you go, my guests always get the final word. And my final question, the question to you is, what is your advice for the audience to lead like a champion?
Well, you got to be like yourself, and thanking you very much for the service that you gave to protect our democracy in the United States. Leaders are the ones that are willing to do things other people's are not willing to do. And so for me, be bold, be brave, as the Marines say. Fortune favors the brave. And if you plan your life accordingly, dip your toe in the pool. You mentioned earlier being responsible with your family. Remember this, man. 40 hours is part-time, 80 hours is full-time if you're looking to do this. So you can have your full-time job and still ramp up your company on the side. And so I believe in things like that. And Vigor is somebody that's willing to take that first step to get up on those rainy Wednesdays. And it's not that philosophy of the N-O, it's the K-N-O-W. Know what you're doing, man. And have that long distance vision, okay? And as you know, in some of the missions that you've been very successful on, you'll see your objective in the distance, but it's that one step at a time to get you there. And that's the beauty of it. You'll miss that. Once you get to where you need to be and you have all the bells and whistles and money and title and parking spot and all that stuff, you're gonna miss the grind. You ask these athletes and these actors and musicians about some of their best times of their life. It's when they played the dive bar, right? It's when they were losing in a certain game and came back and won. And those are the defining moments. Those are the times that carve out who you are, to then take that and then become. And so just always try to find that 1 in a million opportunity. And if it happens to cross your path, Stephen, by all means, drink your life, take it, hold on tight, and see wherever it takes you. And hopefully if it takes you to Costa Rica, I'm definitely buying you drinks and dinner. We're having a good time that night. But you're my man.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that,
buddy.
Because Costa Rica is one of the places I've never been. I've been all over the world, but I've never been to Costa Rica. So I plan on it, and I will hold you to that, Richard. You bet. if you don't pony up, everybody on the listen to this podcast going, no.
I was going to say, I got thousands of witnesses right now. Hey, don't worry about that. I will definitely follow through for my main man.
All right, my brother. So that's going to wrap it up for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It is always an honor and a pleasure to serve you guys. I will see you all next week. And in the meantime, never forget, lead like champions. Goodbye, everybody.